Hello, 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 hello. We're tuning in, and I'm waiting for my guest. Here he is. He's coming. Hello, hello. Say.
Hey, David.
Hey, Zach, how are you?
How's it going?
All good. Thanks for joining me in your 4th of July here. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
happy
move a
4th
little
of
back
July.
here. Right? Yeah. Good to see you here, my friend.
You too. I've spent it so far trying to feed my 1-year-old turkey hot dogs and failing. So, how's yours going?
Actually, it's funny because I had a casting meeting for Germany this morning, and then my son wanted to go to the splash pad, but he's very like right now in that age where he doesn't want to wear clothes.
Mm-hmm.
So he just wants to go free, and I was like, "Hey, whoa, whoa, whoa!" Thank you for everybody that is tuning in. I see a lot of my Mexican people here. My mom is tuning in. It's amazing, you know,
Nice.
uh, and a lot of my European friends and I also tune in. So thank you for tuning in your Saturday night. I brought Zach because I think we have so many things. We haven't talked in a while, And first, you debuted in the Dallas Opera TDO network. Your series in partnership with your own blog, Middle Class Artists. Can you tell us a little bit how's it going? How is being the response? Like, do you feel that it's being like how do you feel? Tell me about it.
It's been really interesting. I mean, I learned how to basically make a cartoon about singing. So we're all us singers. We're trying to create a new set
Yeah.
of skills for the new age, and it's been a really interesting project, distilling my ideas into a sort of conversational
Yeah.
format with just some real life case studies, some just made up, and but using real facts and contracts and discussion
Wow.
with artists. And condensing it into like a 4 or 5 minute block is actually really hard. I mean, some of these concepts, like young artist programs and dual careers, and how to build a career in year one and cost of living. These are like pretty complicated economic concepts. So it's been a challenge, kind of distilling it into just layman terms and into examples. But it's been a lot of fun. I've learned a lot just doing the process. Would I create a cartoon from scratch again? I don't know. It's really complicated, but it's a lot of fun.
Well, I'm very very glad you're having fun. I think that the education from the professional institutions towards the singers that are starting the pipeline or are in any pipeline at the moment, but they don't have access to some of the realities in the industry. I think that that's very important. Like that entertainment industries, you can Google like how much Julia Roberts make per movie, right? Like
Yeah,
you can check what is the salary of Stephen Curry.
yeah.
So
There's no
you
Glassdoor for opera singers.
exactly, and it's kind of like taboo, and we are still not yet like publicizing fees of everybody in the United States. But by the way, for the people that don't know that are tuning in today, there is a big consortium of opera houses in Europe that includes some of the top houses in Europe that distribute, just like Opera America has their system, Opera Europa has their own, and they actually distribute the fees and they're public. So when you're negotiating somebody, you maybe are a variation between like 200 to a 500 euro contract, but like kind of everybody has a respect that we are valuing X, Y, and Z at 7 this year, and there's a history on bookings. Like they're not rarely you can go from like 5 grand to 10 grand in a day. So that's where it's a little like funny in that sense. But uh, I wanted to ask you, like you are in so much contact with young artists and with artists, and you're constantly researching. How's the temperature out there? How are the artists that populate our opera houses feeling today?
I wish I could be more positive. I think everyone is freaked the expletive out right now. In
Yeah.
part because PUA benefits end in a couple weeks,
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, for a number of very good reasons, we haven't really found a way to pay opera singers money in exchange for singing right now in
Yeah.
America. You know, there's been a couple of online projects and here and there, but I don't know of anyone who said, you know, I paid my rent with singing this month in America, in the U.S. I just don't know anyone. And I think the idea that the benefits of the CARES Act in America are going to run out and there may not be a replacement, combined with the fact that a lot of artists weren't able to get unemployment benefits because of the way their pay is structured. So some, you know, there's two types of wages in America. I'm probably gonna get this slightly wrong, but there's, you know, W-2, which is like, you know, your, you know, office job, you get unemployment benefits, that kind of thing. And then there's contractor, which is 1099, which a lot of singers are independent contractors.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, if you're working in 20 different states, for whatever reason, when they run the numbers, they think you're making like 10% of what you're making, and that's the unemployment benefit you get. So, you know, I wrote a, or not wrote a piece, but a friend of mine wrote a piece on Middle Class Artist that said, you know, she qualified for $72 of unemployment a week, and she still hasn't gotten it for various reasons. So, you know, there's this like, there's this in between layer of artists who sort of miss the boat on unemployment benefits and who haven't been able to catch up, and who also haven't been able to get paid work. And because a lot of opera companies and orchestras have canceled through the fall, you know, it's a bit of a scary environment for artists, and we're all talking about it, and we're all freaking out about it because it doesn't seem like anyone has a clear answer on how someone is going to be an opera singer in October in America. You know.
So you know, like just to clarify a little bit because we have a lot of international people joining us today. There is a program currently that I think it varies. I'm very like I'm not very close following, but there's a general sense of like around $600 a week that is giving us unemployment as a relief payment to the majority of people in the United States, that it's able to prove certain amount of employment before. And that's how people are getting by. But there is a big executive order that is coming to this program comes to an end in a week, 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think it's the third week of July
Yeah.
in some states. So
Yeah.
they have a few more weeks of it, but yeah.
So that's you know, for everybody, again, you know, like it has been very nice for the American population, you know, for the Latin American singers and some European singers, they don't have that too. So I think in general, like you know, the life of a performing artist today is very difficult, you know, in a sense. But in fact, like again, since I piqued a lot of my you know, my interest on your content because of when I started reading a post from you, you know, I can see the hours of and diligence
I'm obsessed.
you know, on finding and tracking and quantifying a lot of these things, that I find that data gives us the best tools to push forward. And I find in a way a little bit the model today in opera is still, you know, is prize the ability to seduce, right? A big donor whale in order to do opera, than actually get worried about how can we make opera marketable, for profit, maybe, and it's a controversial idea, you know, but something that is more relatable with the actual market value. You know, we have priced these certain like blanket fees that we have, but when we say, okay, well, how do we price the per performance in reality in correlations with ticket sales and all these things? It's kind of murky, because if a donor really wants Joyce Donato, you have that person, right?
Yeah.
Or if a donor really wants Placido, you get this person, right? Well, now, you know, complication. But anyway, in any of all these things, like there has been a lot of, you know, the valuation of the talent today, and there's a method to my madness, you know. It comes into something that I am now in a part of management and TDO Network, and you hopefully can corroborate that. Like we pay our content creators, right? And but I haven't started to see a lot of people that are posting online, you know, like, I don't want to do anything for free anymore. I don't want to, like, if you want to do something online, if you want to I see also agencies starting to launch their own kind of like if you want to book a master class, if you want to
Yep,
book a
I'm
lesson,
seeing that.
that like everybody's hustling, right? Like everybody's trying
Yep.
to reinvent and find themselves these type of model. Like, have you heard any interesting ideas from all these research and conversations that you had with singers all day long? About how did the singer feel, how the artist feels about how we should go, how can management help to go in this together,
Yeah, it's tough because on the one hand, artists, we put all this research in, we've done all this time to prepare concerts, and artists, feel that they need to be paid. On the other hand, what this whole digital world, we're treating it as a replacement to opera, and it really isn't. It's something completely
Yeah.
different. There's only a certain amount of content that, there's only basically one or two houses that have been able to figure out how to get people to watch a whole opera online, and that content is on another level from what we're able to produce now. It's almost like a historical document. And so, being able to, call this what it is, which the digital platform is basically for building sales leads and for building interest and engagement and engaging with people who are already interested and finding new people. So it's really not ideal for presenting opera. It's ideal for quick bursts of like, here we are, Dallas Opera.
Yeah.
It's not
Brand
ideal for, like,
expansion.
yeah, it's not like Act One of Tosca coming up, and people's feeds are going, and they're on 6 different apps, and they're looking at TikTok at the same time and watching Netflix. I mean, we're competing with everything right now. Like,
Thank you. Yeah.
I've been sitting on my third album for 3 months and trying to figure out how to release it in this environment, and it's better not to release it, in my opinion, than to release it in this environment, because I'm competing with free concerts from people who are singing at the Met on a Saturday night, who are with a suggested donation of $7. And it's like, I cannot ask people to pay $10 for my schlubby middle-class artist album, which I think is really good, but like, it can't compete in this environment. So I think we just have to, first of all, we have to recognize that this is not, we're really not going to be able to get people to pay for and watch a full opera online, at least not in the current form. So like, what does that mean for artists? You could basically divide, an opera up into like tranches or slices, where you say like, what's like the sexiest part of this opera in like a 2-minute clip or something. Like, there's this clip I'm obsessed with on YouTube of, it's like the Grand Inquisitor scene, and it's Morris Robinson and Eric Owens, and it's only 18 seconds long, and I've watched it like 40 times because it's so awesome. And it's so obvious that like, it's not like a big high note, but it's like two amazing singers just being perfect over a huge orchestra. And so just like finding those moments maybe from old recordings and kind of packaging them into something we can present. And, in that sense, it's unclear if an artist would be paid for that because it depends on their contract. I'm not sure what they sign. But, like a 2-minute clip of, this is an amazing scene, and go through our content and say like the best of from Dallas Opera in the last 5 years, that could be a whole thing. But yeah, I mean, content has to be shorter. It has to compete with, bright flashing lights all the time. It's a new attention economy, to like borrow a phrase from economics, where we're really trying to, like, the most valuable resource is people's attention.
I am with you.
Has a hard time.
I'm with you. Like we were chatting the other day, you and I, about this. I like from management, I feel that I'm very proud of the Dallas Opera that has been, again, I don't criticize anybody that has responded in any other way, because it's so complicated and financials are very, very, very hard. And every donated dollar, it's so much work, and it's difficult. So everybody has to have their strategies. I respect it, but I'm very proud that the Dallas Opera has understood that we're as strong as the content creators, as the artists that we partner and put on a stage. So whenever we have had something in the books, we try to create something creative that makes us, still, we have reduced pay in our staff. We have shortened and canceled seasons by the safety of our audiences. But now that we're coming, like it's more defined that we're gonna have, like, we're not gonna have music until the fall, until the beginning of winter, right? And so now everybody's kind of like, well, let's do opera the same way. I have heard a lot of the conversation, you know, since I'm in the artistic channels, of film projects that are quite robust, are difficult to film because everybody still is social distance, you know, like um, not everybody has the, you know, the cameras to do real filming and real editing, and it's really hard. And I'm wondering exactly, when you have conductors, when you have Netflix at $9, when you have certain massive things with a suggested donation at $7, like these projects are coming, you know, not less than $10,000, and they put immediate money into the creators. Don't get me wrong, right? But for the institution, it forces us to keep doing business as usual. You know, go to a donor, ask for that, you know, and then I can fold it, or I can sell it to as much as we can when it's underwritten. Virtually, I am concerned when you see, and this is in New York Times and it's very outside, you see the 40 super megastars gala at the Met, you know, with all their paraphernalia, with all the Jonas Kaufmans and the Trepkos and all those things. Still, like these one with a worldwide platform, with the second biggest fan base in Facebook until Royal Opera House, they only like got donations for about $1 million.
Yeah.
Right? That's the biggest group, like of like the power of opera was there that day. 40 major artists singing their greatest hits with a Met endorsement, and it was like the day that opera all the fans of the world could have, and it was $1 million, right?
That's not
So
enough. I mean, it's a what's a $330 million operating budget. I mean, that's less than a third of
exactly.
1% of what they need to for their year.
So I do think that we have to find a full, you know, in the thoughts of all the restructuring that we're doing in the opera houses, you know, like I do think that we have to have conversations more honestly, financially, between management, singers, and their own agents, you know, about the realities of the digital realm.
I
know?
totally agree. I know there's a huge pushback among singers against producing digital content, not necessarily because of the fees, although that is part of it, but it's sort of a like, this isn't what we trained for, you know, like, someone spent a decade building a voice that can fill 3,000 seats, and all of a sudden we got this like teeny tiny like hand mic we're trying to like speak into and become videographers and become digital photographers and graphic designers and all these things that also are real jobs, you know, that people train for years. So I think, you know, there's just, it's really hard to see artists adapt quickly to this new environment, partially because all those skills are new. So, you know, if I've seen projects where singers are like, someone just told me to make a video for, you know, whatever, a couple $100. Like, how do I do this? Like, what mic should I get? What should I do this? And then, like, they lose money. And then because it's not professionally done, it maybe doesn't have as big an impact as, you know, it needs to be. And yeah, I think, I mean, the only way I see forward in the short term is, you know, in line with what you're doing, tons of bursts of daily short content from a lot of different people. Like, and that necessitates that you can't get, you know, Jonas Kaufman's not going to do that. He's going to charge $50,000 for that. You can't do that. So, you know, building new artist brands, launching them and promoting them. And I also think relying on the megawatt stars is a mistake because, you know, they're not going to be able to perform in America for a while. So you potentially have someone who, you know, hasn't performed in 2 years in your city or 3 years or 5 years, relying on their name brand recognition from, you know, their Met HD performance. Not everyone's going to be able to remember that. You know, like a lot of great bands come through Seattle, and I go to a lot of live indie shows, or I used to, and, you know, one would come in and I'd buy their album and I'd be super obsessed with them, and then they wouldn't come back to Seattle for a while and I'd forget about them. So, you know, it really is about constant engagement, building artist brands for value. You know, I mean, it's we can't rely on someone charging, you know, $1,000 an hour to produce content on the internet. It's just never going to happen. So, I mean, I think taking chances on young artists and building brands, people like, I think his name's Aaron Couch, who has 16,000 followers on Instagram and who's an amazing tenor and producing all these videos. People like that, finding people like that, building their brand. So, when we get back in a year, we're able to have a whole new roster of young artists, and we didn't have to rely on a bunch of canceled young artist programs that didn't happen.
That's the scary part, this shift of priorities and not having a digital revenue structure in place for the business of classical music that is substantial. It begs the questions of how we do this, how this industry survive. I really hope, and I don't know really all the people that are watching and who's going to share this, but I really, whoever is in the main controls, the godfathers of opera, I wish that we would have more and more, like a realization that if we are not relevant in everyday culture, that means if we're not in screens, if we're not in digital platforms in so many ways, if we don't have good TikTokers, if we don't have good Instagrammers, if we don't have good websites.
I'm not a good TikToker.
Right? If we don't have virtual reality experience, if we are not quoting in video games, if we're not using in sports, if we don't cross promote with different entertainment industries and do partnerships with restaurants, with movies, like all these things, like we are not as relevant as a museum as yet. And even though the Metropolitan Museum of Art is suffering tremendously, right? So it is very difficult to survive in a business model of the museum. You have to have real demand. Yep. And pay the real demand of dollars. So in reality, one of the things that I don't know if it's very, it's every, oh, sorry. I was like, I get some private questions in here, and so I will put them. And at some point, I feel that we need to kind of be open on the fact that we want to be able to compete and have affordable prices and strategies of promotion that are realistic with the world. Like one of the things that I find very, very difficult is that when a few like decades ago, I was a pop star in Mexico, and where we promote the tour, like the radio tour, the radio interviews, the little mall appearances, whatever you wanted to call it, like they didn't pay us. Right? So of course, I this is where I can see, it's like, well, if I am in your town and I am part of the Traviata cast, let's do all those things, right? And the thing is, now you have to do it in a place where it's like there's nothing that you're getting your main income to do that. So that question, I'm not saying like that we shouldn't pay or we shouldn't do that. I'm just raising all these questions that when an agent or an artist or a manager is thinking of creating any type of content, we need to start thinking about it. It's how we're going to pay for it, how we're going to synchronize it, who has the license to do this. Again, I question a lot of these projects. It's like, how are we going to make them profitable long term? Besides selling it to endorsements, to a grant or to a donor, right? And I think that is the challenge right now. That's why you find individual artists like this tenor you mentioned, that they are starting to get their own opportunity. It's a lot of hustle, like it's really hard to monetize these things.
It's a very different environment, and to the people trying to monetize it right now in our industry, I would say 15%, 10%, 20% of zero is still zero. I mean, we're not at a place where there is any pie to share, at least as far as I know. Maybe somebody is making money off of online content in a big way, but right now we're like all kind of holding hands trying to get through the fire together. And I would just say, and I've softened my position on this quite a bit since March, where, I watched a lot of my friends, get basically canceled mid rehearsal. And as I've seen what's happening at these houses where they're ballooning and have deficits and challenges for the next year. Anyone who's doing something interesting online right now is the person you wanna associate with. Anyone who is producing innovative content, who has new ideas, those are the people that are going to build us forward. And you just have to basically like connect with them and latch on for dear life and hope, you know, at some point that's going to lead to something. And I know the idea of exposure bucks for me is just very unappealing. But I purposely haven't monetized my blog, you know, even though it was, you know, in April and May, I was hitting like 300,000 views a month. Because I know that this is an investment in, you know, arts advocacy and just, you know, building a network and trying to get this together. It's not about, you know, making $500 in April so I can pay my rent. It's about building a broader coalition of artists, of agents, of unions, of houses, you know, artistic directors and administrators, conductors. And if we all kind of amplify our message together, then I think we can get through this. But if we all start fighting over the breadcrumbs now, I don't see a way how we can get through it.
You know, again, I want to be very clear because I got a few private hearers that it was like, well, but are you trying to make a piece of where you're asking people not to charge you? I said, absolutely not. You know, like, again, TDO Network do pay their content creators, you know, and I'm a big believer of that, you know. So I think that there's ways, you know, like there's ways where we have to be more open. Again, you know, we have to understand where they are, and that's why we brought you to the TDO Network. You know, like I felt that in opera, we rarely have investigative journalism besides the Me Too movement, or besides certain journalism that it's normally about the art and very nerdy. But it was like, tell me about the business of this. Mm-hmm. Like, what is really happening? How does this come from? Why do we have this humongous pipeline of singers that get reduced to like 2% of that is what it's employable? And then maybe like 0.5% is the one that makes about 6 figures. And mm-hmm. then, you know, like how can this multi-billion-dollar like industry that is culture has this pipeline, right? So that's why I felt that, you know, until now, what you see it, like we have you that it's a very specific part of journalism. We have lifestyle, we have singing, we have interviews. Like we wanted to create a place where we were, you know, we allow people to be a real fan, whatever it takes you. Like if you want statistics, we have it, you know, we like it's kind of that like, but yeah, like it was something that we wanted to enhance the experience of being in a relationship with an opera house, not just traditionally subscribing or buying a ticket and getting the brochure and mm-hmm. getting the magical mystery tour about Magic Flute. Like it was, let's also connect with you with person, with money, with social activism, with the business part of it, with of course the training and a lot of things. So I don't know. I think that that this digital realm, it needs to be like talked more often, talked more in a situation where it has realistic commercial values, expectations from both sides. Mm-hmm. We cannot go to both ways. You know, I don't think that management can go and ask for anything for free completely. And also the other side cannot ask $400,000 for the right to do a live stream for 24 hours, right? Yeah. So, like, come on, people. Like, we have to be in this together and understand and read the papers. Both sides of the world. You know, both sides of the world need to understand that this is the reality of our business. We have been maxing our credit card for a long time. You know, and that meant that we always had some, like, super big dad that was paying out that credit card. But now the credit has run out. So now we're on our own. We have to be relevant entertainment-wise. So whoever is the leader today, like, and I am paying attention and I am praying to the gods, whoever it is, that, you know, we rarely get, like, places like level 1 opera companies in the world open. There's going to be a big transition now in the Toronto house, in Canadian Opera House, when the mammoth and the legend that Alexander Neve is leaving. And I'm like, I hope that whoever it comes in, mm-hmm. because that's where you really can make change from one big cornerstone where a national company decides can do this, that they keep somebody, you know, as visionary and as diverse and empowering artists as Alexander is, you know, and that they happen to be that now you have to come with a layer of digital familiarity and diversity awareness to be the leader of a really successful opera company of today, you know? So I really not panic, but I hope that we do the right thing. I haven't seen it before
It's
in
very
many past transitions where we bought the same product sometimes, and we were playing the way that we have always been done it because it's safe, you know. So
yeah.
I don't know, like those in your conversations, do you guys like feel that leadership, or at least the communication between singers and management has to be close, and has to be addressed about this digital realm?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think there's a real push and pull here historically in digital as well, where, you know, when a digital revolution comes, a lot of the middlemen or middle persons get cleared out. You know, like Amazon cleared out a lot of booksellers, a lot of people that used to stock things no longer do. Jobs change, and we're one of the few industries where we've had every person at every level kind of set for quite a long time. And I'm not sure we realize that that's going to change yet, but the idea that someone is going to send a link to my video on my behalf and that person is going to charge me money for it is hard for me to comprehend in a digital world. Like, the whole point of the digital experience is it streamlines it makes it easier. You know, one click, you click on a YouTube video, it has an algorithm that sends you to the next one. You know, I'm not sure what role the other parties in our industry are going to play yet. And I think, you know, for me personally, you know, based on my research, I've been able to reach out to people individually like yourself and others. And the idea of adding a layer to that to try and build this kind of coalition is harder for me to comprehend. And I think for a lot of artists, they see that, you know, we do need to work together. And, you know, my friends are running in opera companies and are administrators, and why can't we just kind of like all figure this out in a room, you know? It's really hard to not see that in digital.
I found that this thing has pushed us to like the recording era where, you know, where big labels were kind of dying because of Napster and all those things. And
Exactly.
so there was the booming where everybody from their house could be a label, right? And only really the super mammoths sustained that, and they started also like diversifying, having branching into like small labels and all these things. So I find that now like everybody that is an opera singer becomes like an indie label content creator, right? And they found their own market value by selling their own CDs on MySpace, and now it's TikTok and Instagram and Facebook events and all these things. And now incredible people, like I don't know, in the past week I had incredible conversations with so many different technicians and economists and journalists, things like that, that they are thinking about how to get these figured out, you know. So I think that, you know, one of the things that maybe we should also talk about is how you get paid with media. Because I don't think that there's a lot of education of that, you know, like, and I'm just going to tell you from my side what I see, you know. Facebook, for the ones that don't know this, in order to get, you have two ways to monetize Facebook videos, right? Number one is you can get a subscription to your fan page. So you basically, people charge X amount of money and you give exclusive content to your fan page to the people that have the password. It's not a very successful model for like entertainment, to be honest. And the other one is ads. You know, when you go like Now This and things like that, about every single moment you get a video inside of it, right? But in order to get certified, just to get ads like that, you have to have 30,000 views per day for 60 days consistently. If not, Facebook is not interested to give ads traffic to your channel. So for the people that think that like posting a lot in their channel is not good, booyah, you know. So that's what it's like, in a certain way, a problem for me, you know. Like, you have to have a lot of traffic, you have to have a lot of things that are uh, in a way are a little complicated, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you can't wade halfway into the pool. You just have to jump in.
yeah, yeah. No, for me that is something that it's a little uh, complicated. You know, you have to have that amount of traffic. So from an opera singer that you already have a very specific niche, how you can get 30,000 views per day, right? You know, so it is a little complicated in that sense, you know. The other one that I find is that, you know, if you are a YouTube influencer, you know, you have millions and millions of views, but most of these people that do this, you know, they have a lot of you know, like they have a lot of production and scripting. They're professional writers, professional influencers, and a lot of these things that is out there, you know. So I would like to know in a way, you know, like if those things have been thought about it from the classical singer today, you know?
I I think you hit on a lot of important stuff. First off, the classical music business is a niche business in itself. We have a maximum number of views that someone can get. You know, that's probably Anna Netrebko's hit that, and you know, if we don't have 15 of her, you know, or 30 of her, or 100,000 like YouTube. So we have to work within our own limits, but with the understanding that we're also competing with, as I said, like Netflix, you know, big companies with $100 million war chests who are putting out content, paying creators $10,000 a post, who are in turn bringing in 1 million posts or views a day or something on a magnitude that we can't compete with. You know, the biggest budget in our you know, company in North America is the Meta, 330 million. And you know, Apple has a over $200 billion war chest of cash just sitting around. And you know, we're competing for views with those companies now, so that's really scary. And the only way I can see us doing that is just sheer volume. You know, just a bunch of micro influencers, small regional audiences banded together, companies working together on you know, joint budgets, and just saying, you know, here, like for instance, here are the stars of Texas, and working with Dallas and Houston and other companies, and saying we're gonna put up, you know, 50 posts a week and hopefully get a couple thousand each time, and just, you know, working on volume. But that also requires a war chest, and it requires a belief from boards to get behind digital in a way that I'm not sure any board has yet. So I mean, we are all digital companies right now, including my teeny tiny middle class arts company, and some individual brands have bigger brands than companies. You know, like basically anyone with over 10,000 followers on Instagram has a bigger audience right now than a lot of regional symphonies and opera companies. So, you know, finding those people by the dozen and scooping them up is probably a good idea.
Yeah, no, it's something that it is impressive, you know, like how we have to think about ourselves right now as digital companies. You know, we that is our product a lot, you know, and it's difficult to see ourselves, and I feel that it's difficult for the content creators also, because the people that are very good in camera, and you know, I am very always very concerned, because there are people that are very good in camera, and there are people that are not. Like I was seeing a piece of kind of like a storytelling comedy thing that what is the name of the guy that of X-Men, but then the young one that is playing Dr. Xavier, I forgot, his Scottish guy, I forget.
Oh yeah, James McAvoy maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he did something about kind of like force, you know, it was called, you know, like, it was a little complicated in a way that, like, not everybody's super comfortable, and these are Hollywood stars, right? Like,
Yeah.
and they are doing it with Zoom and with everybody, like a little bit like that. So, I find that it's a little complicated
Mhm.
sometimes in that sense, you know. So,
It's
I
a lot like an audition skill set versus a performing skill
yeah,
set. You know, we're
yeah,
kind of looking
exactly.
more for an audition skill set right now, in the sense of being able to do short bursts of content that really impress people versus, you know, skills like stamina on a long run, and you know, being able to perform night after night on long periods of time. and people who have kind of figured it out already, so you don't have to teach them, who may be able to teach us, you know. So yeah, I totally agree.
I agree. So anyway, I think, you know, like that that for me, I'm constantly trying to find a way where we are win-win, you know, both our sides
Yeah,
in life. That we get something where the content creator feels inspired. So I think that, you know, my recommendation would be like try to create something a little bit. It's an investment that is great, that it has a lot of good content, and maximize your budget in with as much good lighting that you have, or good mic, whatever is what you're gonna do. Even if it's a talk show or a written piece, like middle class art is the way that you started, right? Like when you went into that way, I feel that at the end of the day, uh, the the content, if it's good, is going to be picked up. You know,
yeah,
like I feel that now a lot of the people are trying to find new content creators that are
yeah, exactly.
that are independent, and I am sure that the price is going to start, you know, going up and up and up and up and up.
For sure.
So
It,
it's
you kind
yeah.
of described the young artist pipeline too. It's like, you know, as someone gets a few performances under their belt and they start to get a little more confident, they get, you know, more roles in management, you know, the price goes up. I mean, like, you know, a lot of different industries. But yeah, I mean, it's a very difficult problem. How do you square being able to, you know, pay people what you feel they deserve in a medium nobody really understands? I mean, there's never been a classical media network fight. Like we've never had 100 different classical organizations like battling it out for people's attention before. And you know, it really is like a winner take all system. And whoever has the biggest lead to start is going to do very well. And it seems like Dallas Opera is committed to that at least. So
Well, you know, we're very proud of our efforts. You know, we're constantly every day trying to find, you know, new ways of engagement, tuning our ads strategy, the people that we partner with, the type of editorials. It's has been a big shift for the company to even see ourselves in a way as a media company, as a digital company, because you have to, you know, we had to even research sometimes, you know, how we needed showrunners, right?
yeah,
We needed products, right? We needed things. So in a way, it was a little more specific what we wanted to do in that sense, you know. So I it's a complicated way, you know. Like we are also really behind, you know. Like some of our channels are really hard earned. Our followers, our everything that we do, it's really a lot of work, you know. And actually, that's also one of the things that we need to train our people. Like, you know, our content creators, and as you can tell us, like it's a lot of work to create a 3 minute, 4 minute piece, like superly well done,
yeah.
you
It
know.
it takes me about 15 hours a week, and I have a full time job, and I'm a dad, and I'm trying to be a musician when I can. You know, that was what I was supposed to be doing at some point.
Yeah, and that's again, you know, something that for me it's something that you have to respect, you know. Like we have to respect a lot for us what we're trying to do, you know, that this is a very expensive way to communicate too. It's cheap in certain ways, but you still have to put a lot of work as an artist, you know.
Yeah,
It's another creative output, but anyway, I think that this is, you know, it's very enlightening for us to see that, you know, like from your side, you know, everybody's panicked, but also it's trying to find that way, you know,
we're
find
all
a
looking
way.
for a solution. Yeah, I mean, we're all trying to work together on it.
And lastly, like, tell us, are you cooking what is your coming be your next episode? What is your what is going to be like? Can you give us a little bit
Sure.
a
Yeah.
trailer
So
before?
the last one was dual class, you know, dual class artists.
Yeah.
I'm a nerd, so my inspiration is Dungeons and Dragons. You know, it's like you can be a fighter and a thief. You can be a musician and a data analyst.
Yeah.
So I had some real life examples. And then this next one, I'm closing out with young artist programs, including some talking about fees, just because I don't think our pipeline's ever been more important and understanding how it works. Because the sacrifices musicians are making early on have never been greater. The fees for school are quite high. It's unclear how school is going to work and what happens afterwards. And just having a kind of a calm explanation of like, after you graduate, here are some of the kind of things you can expect. Throw people a bone on, how to figure this out, because often you'll get to what's basically the last interview where they sort of,
Yeah.
move over the piece of paper like in the movies and they say, is this enough? And it's clearly not enough, but you kind of have to say yes at that point. So just understanding that like a young artist program early on is not necessarily going to pay a full-time wage. And it's a sacrifice that some are able to make, but others haven't, and they've done fine as well. So just kind of, there's a lot of advice that just says, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, and you're a star. And I've always approached it from the point of view where there are so many ways to have a music career. I mean, if you're performing in public for money, you have a music career. That could be literally anything. It could be any genre. Like you're a pop star. I mean, and it informed and enlightened your ability to sing and your ability to administrate at Dallas Opera. And every skill we build, correlates with one another, to quote a friend of mine, and just really just kind of builds on each other. So I'm definitely going to go into young artist programs, but I'm going to try and tie it all together and say, there's more than one way to do this. Like, it's really hard at the beginning, but like, don't panic. We got you. Like, there's people that can help. We're all trying to work to make this better. This is what it is now, but we could work together and make it even better.
That's pretty good. Like I again, we are in Dallas Opera. We are lovers of artists, and we want to create always great environment for them to create. So having at least some sort of a educational piece that tells you, like these are the hardships that are in front. Like don't I guess that everybody knows that being an athlete is very hard, right at the beginning. And I think that we should know that these things are that's why also the value of our performance. It's years to become so good. That's also needs to be accounted. But we have to be, at the end of the day, also marketable and market relatable and relevant, So it's a pretty good thing, and I can't wait to see it. And Zach, I'm thinking that since July 4th is our weekend, why don't we like end up this one early?
Sure. Yeah.
And I am very, very grateful that you joined with us today, and joined us on 4th of July. I think that you're the investigative journalism that you're doing in the industry is so important, and I know that you have a lot of challenges because nobody wants to go on the record in this industry. No, everybody's afraid of so many things. You get a lot of information, from so many pieces. So kudos to you to keep at it. And trying to do this. We're very, very proud to have you here with us. And for the the audience that came today with us, thank you for that you're joining from all over the world. I am David Lomeli for the TO Network. My super guest Zach Finkelstein. Don't lose his show this week about young artist programs. And we see you soon. We wish you happy barbecue day for the ones tuning on. And stay safe. Wear your masks. Okay. Thank you.
Happy 4th of July.
Thank you, my friend. Take care.
Have a good
one. Bye. Bye.
Bye.